Hi, everyone. All right. Well, thank you all so much for joining us today. My name is Dana Davis. I spent 25 years in this industry. The past 15 years I spent leading sustainability, product, and business strategy at Mara Hoffman. And now I am doing consulting within innovation, brand strategy through the lens of sustainability, and working with investors. But something that I'm so excited about is introducing this panel to you all today. We have 3 individuals on this panel who are doing groundbreaking work within the fashion world. And I'm going to pass it over so that they can introduce themselves and a little bit about the organizations that they're here representing today. Ngozi, would you like to take it away?
Hi, I'm Ngozi Okaro. I lead Custom Collaborative, which is a nonprofit social enterprise helping women develop careers in sustainable fashion, with sustainability meaning both living wages and environmental protection. Really excited to be here and be part of this conversation today.
Thank you. And Yogi, can I call you Yogi on stage? Okay.
Yeah, of course, of course. Good morning, everyone. My name is Yohannan, Terrell. They call me Yogi. I'm from Columbus, Ohio. Columbus, Ohio is the 3rd largest fashion industry or ecosystem in the country. A lot of people don't know that. And so a lot of your specialty retail brands are headquartered there: Victoria's Secrets, Abercrombie, Hollister, all of those brands. So what I do is I lead an initiative to help the emerging fashion industry find opportunities. So taking all of that knowledge that's been established in the market for decades and breaking that down and democratizing it for the community, but also giving them access to innovative tools and instructions and skills so that they can find opportunity in fashion, with also a focus on sustainability as well and advanced manufacturing. So just building an ecosystem, creating opportunity for economic development through fashion in Columbus, Ohio.
Awesome.
Glad
Thanks,
to be
Yogi.
here.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jen Guarino, CEO of ISAIC, the Industrial Sewing and Innovation Center based in Detroit, not too far from our friends in Columbus. And we catalyze human-centric innovation. We are a nonprofit institute in the way we do our work, and we advance emerging solutions. At the same time, we promote upward trajectory for communities in need that need new opportunities through skilling. And we do that in a variety of ways that I think we'll probably get to during this panel discussion.
Awesome. Thanks, Jen. I'm going to actually start with you. And also just what an amazing representation, right? We have New York City, we have Columbus, and we have Detroit. 3 different cities who are really focusing on building out new creative solutions for whether it is students, entrepreneurs, brands. So really, really exciting to see these kinds of things happening here in the United States. Jen, I'd love to understand a little bit about the model behind ISAIC and how it's evolved through the years, and really how you see innovation through the work that you're doing currently.
Sure. So we're coming up on our 5th year. We started really developing this about 8 years ago, but we've been operational for about 5. And really what we do is we advance solutions through primarily innovation pilots. And what does that look like? That means that we produce real product for real brands in a real manufacturing environment using emerging solutions. At the same time, we standardize skilling using highly effective tools for development and training. It's that combination, that simultaneous combination, that we believe serves to de-risk, validate, and speed innovations that have been proven will benefit industry and people, and that's the key.
And in the world of innovation, the US maybe hasn't been seen as so advanced when we think of manufacturing. I can imagine that's come with quite a few challenges. I'd love to hear maybe some of the recent kind of innovations that you've seen the success in, where you see a lot of opportunity.
So I should preface my answer by saying innovation for us is equipment, it is processes, it's material, but it's also the way we treat people in our industry. So we view that innovation as holistic in that sense. Some of the things that we've seen work is custom automation, AI inspection, We have seen some AI-based programming systems that are emerging really work for knitting. We've also seen some that don't work. So for example, AI inspection, we tried some platforms that were basically outpriced for our industry. And we knew it about 25% of the way in, and we say that's not going to work for industry. We have to look at solutions that are better priced for industry, for the margins that we live with. But I think one of the most successful innovations is our manufacturing business unit. And that is a unit that behaves like a worker-owned factory. Those folks go through training, they learn costing, they learn continuous improvement, they have a board, they learn P&Ls, they learn balance sheets, and they share in the profits of that business unit. So for us, that is a way of taking proven technologies and moving it into real production where people get to have shared equity in the growth of that unit.
I love that. So Ngozi, thinking about the future of fashion and innovation really driving things, we also think of the gap that exists within the workforce. And so I'd love to understand how Custom Collaborative is providing some of those skills in the training program to some of the students, and maybe you could speak a little bit about that for us.
Sure. So Custom Collaborative has 3 programs: a 15-week, 30-hour-per-week training institute where women learn to design, sew, and sell sustainable fashion. That means that they learn everything from personal finance and costing to design and actual clothing production. So our graduation of our 13th cohort will be on December 12th, and what that graduation fashion show will feature people who have, 1, created a business plan for the business that they aim to start, and 2, are wearing the garments that a classmate has made down their runway, right? So out of the gate, they're learning to make custom clothes to fit bodies that are not fit model bodies. After that, people advance to the business incubator, and within the incubator, we continue to teach people and give them opportunities. So in terms of opportunities, we have apprenticeship programs, internships, regular jobs, and then also connecting people to potential clients to buy their goods. We, earlier this year, placed someone in a apprenticeship, and then theory later hired that person as a pattern maker. And so if you talk to fashion companies, if you know fashion, everyone is saying, we don't have pattern makers. There aren't people. That is a job that's aging out. And so we're training people to fill those roles, and at the same time training companies to recognize you need to invest in a workforce and pay them fairly. And also within the incubator, we teach some different types of skills. So we're about to finish a 6-week Clothes 3D program that people are learning so they can learn digital design. So we're trying to be at the forefront and at the same time teach heritage skills. So we just got a felting machine, right? And we're going to get a weaving machine, and we'll get some 3D printing, but we want to make sure that people are prepared for the world that exists, that will exist, and that does exist, and so that they can come out full, well-rounded, confident employees and business owners.
That's amazing, because there really is, when you think of these new innovative tools like a Clothes 3D, and an opportunity to give some of those custom collaborative students an opportunity to learn those skills, to be able to apply them, and then what an amazing success story to hear an individual then placed in a job at a clothing brand. That's awesome. Yogi, so you mentioned Columbus as this fashion hub, and so there's a lot of really big brands that exist there, and I imagine there's a lot of individuals that maybe move on from those big brands, or students who seek out to be in this hub. I'd love to hear a little bit about what are the programs you're building, how are you leaning into the community that exists locally?
Yeah, one of the interesting things about the market is, yes, while we do have a lot of those companies headquartered there, a lot of people within the city itself didn't know that the companies were there. They were located out in the suburbs. They weren't centralized. The industry wasn't centralized. So while you have this technically this third largest industry, it was siloed and nobody had access to it. So as we talked to young students, we would hear that, students within high schools didn't even know that fashion was an opportunity for them in the market. Students in college felt like they had to move to New York and LA to get into the industry. So what we instantly saw is that there were some gaps in the connectivity and the pathways. And so our first, entry into it, we started our nonprofit in 2019 as well. And our goal was to start building community and connecting those dots. And so we are starting from everything from youth education, so we're getting fashion education into all K through 12, focusing mostly on high school students. So we have fashion club that is taught through all the high schools, where there's a drop-in where high school students get to come in and they get to learn. And then we have programs called Future Fashion, which is like a 8-week intensive summer program where we actually pay the students. We really want to focus on those who come from underserved communities as well too, because while they help lead the culture and while they help innovate in the culture and they help move fashion forward, they don't always have access to participate in the business of fashion. And so what we push to do is teach them those business skills as well. Young kids come to us and say, hey, I love fashion, but I don't know my place in fashion. And we find out that they really love the business side. They may not be a designer, but they don't know that that's merchandising. And so when they're able to and learn what the connection is for them, then you see them, really start to level up and really start to get engaged. So we have programs that work with youth, emerging brands as well. So another byproduct of having the industry there is that you have a lot of people who still remain in the market. So Columbus is very talent rich. You have some of the top executives in fashion that have, moved to Columbus, that stay there even if they leave the brands like Victoria's Secret. So you have a wealth of talent that is looking for new and emerging brands to work with. So we are also the convener of those individuals. So we're building platforms where, ex-CEOs from Victoria's Secrets are connecting with an emerging brand, and we're seeing a lot of unlock there. And then we work to kind of fill the gaps on the skills, the access to tools, and the economic opportunities that they need. So making sure that their business is growing stronger, but also making sure that they have access to this talent pool. So a lot of programs from youth to adults, all the way to industry attraction, but really excited to just connect the dots at this point.
I love that. I love the focus on the youth and getting them to understand what the world of fashion really looks like and the opportunities that exist outside of just maybe the ideas that they think of as being a designer. So knowing that the two of you, Ngozi and Yogi, you're working with these individuals who, whether they've been entrepreneurs in their past life or it's something that they seek out in the future, are there any specific examples that really kind of blew your mind at what these individuals were able to do once you gave them access to some of this knowledge or the tools or the space to be creative? I'm sure you both have really enlightening stories.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much, right? I think one of the things, I don't know if it was Jen or Yogi, talked about underserved communities. And I just want to be clear that we are all underserved. Like everybody in this room who buys clothes that don't fit their body, we're all underserved, right? We're just going along with it. We don't recognize it. We think that underserved has a black face or a brown face or poverty, but we are all underserved, right? And so I just want to make sure that we recognize that we're in community and there's different types of community, but just to think about who we are and where we are. So I guess the first thing that I think about is the story that I just shared about the woman who is now in the pattern making department at Theory. She came to Custom Collaborative with very limited English. I think that Mandarin is her first language. And so we have, in order to get into our training program, a requirement that people speak and read like third grade English, and so she passed that, right? But think about someone passing that and then getting into a level where they can speak in meetings for major companies, and that is the place where she is. So in addition to training people in the obvious things, we're also helping people become leaders and civically engaged. And so then everybody in our programs has to do presentations to the class and to our staff. And then we check in with everybody every few weeks to find out their opinions on what we could be doing differently, what they would like to see, right? So we're really trying to help people understand that this is like two-way engagement. And so even from the time that she started her 7-month apprenticeship to the end, her team said like she has like really blossomed and grown from when she initially came to us. And so just the confidence that now she has a job. She had never worked at a job in an office before, probably due to her limited language skills. And so just to see someone who may be derided because they're like an immigrant come and actually contribute to the fashion industry in this country has been really helpful. And I think one of the things that keeps me going.
That's amazing. Thank you for sharing that, Ngozi.
Yeah.
Yogi?
Same, we have so many stories of individuals that we've impacted just in the short 4 years, which to us was proof of concept. We thought to ourselves, if we build this platform, how many people can we help? Is it valid? Is it needed? And over the past few years, we've seen, example after example of people getting small wins to large wins, from youth that we've worked with. Last year we just had some youth actually work with a partnership in California, in LA, with a brand called Uprisers. They did a community project with PacSun, and now PacSun is actually helping them launch their brands within PacSun. So you got high school students that are getting their designs out to the world through partnerships like these, and we've had a lot of things like that. But one in particular that I want to bring for this platform is a great case study for us. Was one of the things we thought about was, since Columbus has such a wealth of specialty retail brands headquartered there, that there has to be a significant amount of waste that gets channeled through our market, right? And so we didn't want to be naive to us being a part of the waste problem. And so one of the first things that we were able to do is work with a young collective named Maive, two African-American sisters. You know Maive? Yeah. So Maive was just here yesterday, actually. You missed her, I'm sorry. So Maive, they were two young girls, very, very smart. They were starting off their sustainability brand, and so they came to CFA, and they were part of our Innovate committee out the gate when we first started up, and we started to identify this challenge of how do we really understand how much textile waste is being produced out of the market. So we partnered with our solid waste management company, and we got a grant from them, and we paid Maive to do a report to actually get like a first snapshot of what product waste looks like in our market. And we found that there were thousands and thousands of tons of clothing being destroyed right in our market. But in addition to just understanding that, they also investigated solutions and what does that ecosystem look like for solutions. So that was completed last year. Since they completed it, they've been getting meeting after meeting in front of our economic development partners and some of the retailers. And so now the Economic Development Institution in Columbus, along with the Solid Waste Management Company, they are allocating acreage right across from the landfill to divert some of this textile waste to create almost like a green park, where some of the innovative companies that are doing amazing things around the market are going to partner to kind of move headquarters over there. So over the next few years, we'll be developing out that plan with Maive, with the sisters. And so that just goes to show that, by bringing people together and creating platforms for us to discuss these things, we can create opportunity, which that also means jobs. So it's really exciting to see what's coming from that.
I love that. And you guys published a white paper out of that research, right?
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
Yes,
So
it was our first stab at it.
That's amazing. And is there a place that individuals can find that if they're interested in reading it? Does it live on the website? Or
Yes. So if you go to columbusfashion.org, you can find links to some of our reports and our white papers on there. But yeah, you guys check it out.
That's awesome. And it's so, when you think about unlocking information and building communities, and if we had a way to do that at a national level or a global level, when we share information and thinking about being in this space and seeing all of these innovators, and when you open up other people's eyes to whether it's the problems, but then the solutions come into play, which is so important when we're doing this work, right? So Jen, I'd love to hear a little bit we're discussing these innovative technologies and these processes that ISAIC has implemented. How do you see some of those kind of really reshaping manufacturing here in the U.S.?
Well, in other industries, we have heard people say, oh, automation and robotics is taking away jobs.
Right.
Well, we can't even get people to be in our industry right now. We're not taking away anything. So the way we think about it is reallocating low-skill, low-wage operations to automation, robotics, and changing the work of that person to a higher skill, higher wage job. So for example, inspection. It's who really wants to be inspecting a black beanie day in and day out? It's really hard for someone.
Right.
And there is technologies to do that. And that's a low wage job. Well, if you can take that person, which we did, we have a young woman who was our first graduate from our apprenticeship program. She moved into being an operator, and then she started to learn Tukatech, automatic cutting, right? How to convert files. This person was formerly homeless, okay? So we see that as a really good example of creating not just more value around a sewing operator, but trusting that their value is beyond one sewing operation, but they can learn more than that. So learning, CLO, all those other things. We have to have faith that those people can learn that too. They're fully capable, and in fact, they should be the first in line to learn it because they've already learned sort of the characteristics of soft goods. So they're the most likely candidates. So when we view automation, where people fear that somehow that's going to take away jobs, we look at it completely differently. We look at it as assigning those low-skill, low-wage jobs and reassigning human-centric talent to a more diverse set of skills that are matched with a more responsive manufacturing process where we're not overproducing.
That's amazing. I'm curious in the audience, how many of you have been inside a factory before here in the US? Oh, wow. Okay, great. So a large amount of you, which is amazing. I've spent a lot of time in a lot of factories all around the world, a lot here domestically, did manufacturing in New York, St. Louis, Los Angeles. Automation outside of knitting, you don't really see. So when I hear you say those things, I've also had an opportunity to visit ISAIC. It's kind of mind-blowing when you think of all of this technology advancements that are happening in our day-to-day lives. But in fashion, we're still so behind.
That's right.
Right? So,
That's right.
yeah, it's amazing when you think of all of the real opportunities versus seeing it as a disservice to these jobs when we think of upskilling and giving people real opportunities.
That's right. And I should say that, we have all these innovators here that have maybe broader solutions, but there's also customized solution. A beanie, you have to knit a tube, you have to cut it, and then you have to flip it inside out. Flipping it inside out was a manual thing.
Right.
What's the career trajectory for that job? I don't know. So
Yeah.
we had a custom-made automation to actually cut and turn inside and out and get it into the line. That's a great example of how to deploy technology in a way that really diverts human-centric talent to a higher value position.
I love that. That's a really great, you can visually understand that. So I'm curious how all of you kind of integrate sustainability into the work, whether it's at the innovation level, if it's teaching the students, or if it's putting together these types of resources. How do you integrate that in your day-to-day work? Maybe Ngozi or Yogi, go ahead.
Yeah,
please. Thank you.
Well, we look at it from even, because we're living that space of the product production, sales space, and then trying to do more in the resale space and things like that. But even looking at what you said, things like Clo 3D. We look at things like Clo 3D. There's a new platform called Style 3D that utilizes, has more, I don't know what you call it, like tech packs or something like that. I'm not really good on the technical side, guys, I'll tell you that much.
You can't be all things, it's okay.
Can't be all things, but what we look at those types of platforms for is not only being able to get the new innovative technology that's going to be moving more and more commonplace in the future, right, in front of people who can, take that and run with it. But we also look at it from an equity standpoint. We look at if you're a new designer, you're trying to get into the design space, how many people can afford sewing machines and fabrics and
Right.
to test out all that stuff, and that stuff is also, waste, but now teaching, young individuals how to design in Code 3D helps them get into the game quicker.
For
right?
sure.
And when you're looking at digital marketplaces and things like that are emerging even more, they can actually, get into the industry without creating so much waste too as well, right? So
Yeah.
we look at it even from a design perspective, and we know sustainability is across the whole spectrum, not just in the materials. So like from design to production and materials and all that things.
Yeah.
So we're looking at even things like that as a way to get into, start out in the sustainability.
I love that, because if you implement some type of tool like that, you're ultimately leading to less waste, right? And you're ultimately looking at cost incentives. So, right, you're increasing the value within the company through the lens of sustainability without maybe pushing it through sustainability. What about you, Ngozi?
Yeah, I would say that for starters, all of the materials that we use at Custom Collaborative, whether we are producing something or training our participants, are donated pre-consumer waste, right? And so whether it's rolls of textiles that they're learning on, or clothes that a company was going to send to landfill, that we are teaching our participants how to mend or make into something new. So that's the start. Environmental sustainability is at the core of our work,
Yeah.
and so we try to place it everywhere possible. So yes, the students have a 2 or 3 day training on sustainability, but also places where we might not think about. So we have people weigh the fabric that they're using so we know how much we've diverted from landfill. So people are just thinking about these types of things, right? We work with other organizations like Fab Scrap, but it is very important for us to be teaching sustainability, but also learning. So I reflect on what a woman from our second cohort said to me. She's from Angola, and she said, "Oh, I never heard of sustainability before I came to Custom Collaborative, but at home, this is what we do all the time."
Right.
Right, and so just to think about like the knowledge that somebody is bringing to you, that you don't have to like buy mediocre things that you're going to wear or not wear and throw away, but like
Right.
that actually you can remake something, you can reuse something, you can patch it or pass it down or whatever.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Well, I sit on the board of Custom Collaborative, and I get to spend a lot of time in their facility here in the Garment District, and it is amazing to see when you take sustainability and embed it into all parts of the training program, how creative they're thinking through design. There's, between utilizing scraps, but this upcycling that's happening in such a beautiful way. I mean, I've been able to purchase things from, textile waste. It's a wine cooler or something, really a beautiful bag. I have wallets from some of the graduates. So it is really amazing when they're thinking about design, but sustainability first and foremost. I love that. And in the world of technology and innovation, Jen, does sustainability go hand in hand with that?
The first of all, sustainability, as we all know, is like a giant topic. So it's like you have
And word to define.
really, really pick where you can have impact. So we recognize that there are people doing work in areas that are having much more impact than we would, like in textile innovation. That's
Right.
not what we do. But I think where we have true impact is developing innovation that will help to create responsive on-demand manufacturing
Oh, yes.
to produce the hardest to forecast product
Right.
so that we can stop overproduction and make the right things at the right time for brands, and if they have something that sells really well, be able to get back into it in a way that they can't when they're offshoring. So it's both
Right.
reducing overproduction, but also creating increased sales opportunity because they can respond to something. So that is a huge piece of sustainability. In the US, if we don't build that capability to do responsive manufacturing, we're missing out on a huge impact. The second piece is, and I can't overstate this enough, and this is why I'm so happy to be on this panel, is you can make all the sustainable decisions you can in a day around, how you manufacture something, the materials, et cetera. But if our industry is still reliant on unsustainable lives, that is not sustainability.
Right.
Thing we do, we look at how does this impact the lives of a person that is going to be in this environment? What is their pay? What is their working conditions? Our production, Fundamentals of Industrial Sewing and Production course, which is 200 hours, teaches worker rights.
Right.
That's
right.
part of it.
Yeah.
So I think that component, those two things are where we lean in really hard.
Yeah, when I hear Jen talk about that, and when we think about the amount of waste, and when I hear Ngozi talk about fit, right? Like, you can buy all of these great clothes, but the reality is if they don't fit, you're not wearing them. And so there's this big gap between the way brands are looking at producing, or they're projecting out what they're going to need. And then when I hear Jen talk about this ability to be more reactive, to understand kind of what's happening in the market, to be able to manufacture something locally, the opportunities that then the jobs that individuals have access to by the training that the two of you are providing, like, the ecosystem can be done, right? Like, the tools and the solutions are here. It's just getting the industry to participate. And I do believe we're seeing a big shift in that, right? And we know that brands are maybe scrambling a little bit right now, knowing that the future of the tariffs that are coming. And so a lot of opportunities do lie ahead in manufacturing domestically.
I think so, and I think there's something very loud but quiet that's happening right now. And you should read this recent report that the UN supported called Under the Banyan Tree. And the reason why it is important, it addresses what you're talking about. Yeah. And for the first time, we are seeing offshore major producers of apparel, the biggest ones on the planet, multi-billion-dollar companies, wanting to work with onshore manufacturing companies to be able to produce the hardest to forecast units, but to produce the same exact thing. So no matter where it's being produced, the brand is getting the same thing, but they're getting the right same thing at the right time. And why would an offshore manufacturer do that? You'd say, well, that seems weird. They're giving up volume. No. What they're getting away from is constant downward pressure on unit pricing. Right. They've already reached the bottom. They can't go lower.
Right.
So for the first time, this global supply chain network of manufacturers and capabilities are coming together in a way that's super meaningful, and I'm very hopeful about that.
That's amazing. And the article that you're referencing, Under the Banyan Tree, where can individuals find that?
I think if you just search Under the Banyan Tree, it'll come up.
Okay, amazing.
Because it was supported by the UN, ITC, and IAF.
Okay.
And it's the principle behind what we're talking about. There's another one called Project Interlace that actually has the math behind it. And it actually shows that if you're producing 70% of what you know you're going to sell, so you're not speculatively buying anymore, and producing closer to consumption what you know you're going to sell, you can pay 4 times the landed price on that and be more profitable because you're diverting the cost of everything that's going to landfill to more sales opportunity, and you're freeing up capital that is you're just burning.
Right. It's a real mind shift change, though, that needs to happen, right? A conversation that comes up in a lot of the circles that I live in is just even retail math in general is such an archaic way that we're producing. And so if we can get some of these companies to shift into how they're thinking of that manufacturing and really looking at their bottom line in a different way, right? Well, I don't know how much time we have. I do want to ensure we have enough time for some questions, but I guess I'd like to know, you're all doing such amazing work. It's so motivating, and I imagine there's times where it can also get maybe a little challenging, or maybe there's some barriers to continue existing and scaling. What are some of the things that maybe you're right now looking for as you're looking to really grow your business, and what does kind of the next 5 years look like, and how do we get there?
All right, I'll go first. So over the next 5 years, one of the reasons we're really excited to be in rooms like these is because we see the importance and we see where the industry needs to go when it comes to sustainability. We know, like you said, it's a very broad, thing, but there are lanes, there are opportunities for progress. And so what we see is, one of the things that we're excited to talk about is opportunity for us to get these new and innovative, fabrics and textiles in front of creatives, right? We work with, when we're working with younger people, they are already wired to think about sustainability. They tell us most of the time that, okay, we want our brands to be about, sustainability and saving the planet. So they're already more willing to accept that information and more willing to embrace it. And so we're looking at ways to, how do we get these more innovative materials in front of emerging creatives and younger creatives, because they're not only willing to accept it, but they'll also be able to help innovate on it. So we're looking forward to doing some design sprints and design challenges with creatives, with utilizing these materials, and excited to connect with some of these vendors, because the earlier they can start to adopt them, the earlier they can start to embrace them into their brands, their brand narrative, and also the product that they put out. So we're really excited about where that's going. And over the next 5 years, we see us, building and connecting this ecosystem together.
Right.
And I see that being a bunch of different nodes, right? We've been thinking about that. So just how do we all work together, right? We all are working so hard in our different markets, but technology allows us to connect. So how do we all continue to build? And you guys are a part of that solution as well.
Yeah, I love that, because there is this big gap that happens in the world of innovative materials and getting a brand to commercialize it, right? Like we know that exists. My experience at Mar Hoffman, we were really pushing to help commercialize some of these innovations. But inside a lot of companies, there's a lot of barriers, there's a lot of R&D that happens. So the services that you guys are providing is ultimately saying, we can take these materials and we can be a feedback loop for you of what's happening real time, and kind of help do some of that testing for you, right?
Yeah, and good thing, I'm glad you brought that up, because a lot of the bigger brands, especially after COVID, they got rid of their R&D. Right. So, there's not too many people internally in these companies that are hyper focused on new materials, but we know at the end of the day, listening to earnings calls, that they're trying to find new ways to produce. They're trying to, look at their better operations. They're worried about tariffs and all that stuff. So again, if we can showcase that through allowing emerging creatives to create things and being able to give that access to the major retailers we have in our market, they can get their eyes on new and innovative models, then look at commercializing and things like that.
Yeah, that's great. And Ngozi, I love the training program, and December 12th is the graduation, and then the apprenticeship part of the training program, how important that is. So when you do think of kind of the next 5 years, or where do you see the importance of the work that you're doing being more focused on?
Yeah, I think I would echo what Yogi says about developing the ecosystem, because he and Jen and I and people So Valley and Raise Fashion are doing so many things. And so what we need is the investment from outside. So whether that is government, whether that's companies, the companies can help us by hiring folks, by helping us give information on what we're teaching and what do you all see as upcoming needs. And of course, textiles and money. Custom Collaborative recently got a $1.1 million grant from New York State for some capital, some capital expenses. Yeah, so we'll have some great new equipment and build our facilities a little bit more, but we want to match that with 1.4 for our programming, right? Because right now we teach in English. We want to be able to teach in another language. We have only a daytime class. We want to have an evening class. And we want to do more of these things in some of like the advanced manufacturing or the advanced training. And so that is really where folks can lean in and step up. And I would say also one of the things that's really important for us is, again, engaging the people in our programs as citizens. And so we have supported Senator Gillibrand's Fabric Act. And so I think that is the future as well, like making sure that when jobs come back here, right, it's not like at low wages, right, that the jobs that really, the pay really is in line with the skills that people have and the upward mobility that folks need.
Thank you.
So I guess I would have two things, one that's more immediate and one longer term. The most immediate is one of our most highlights of our last 5 years is our relationship with Carhartt. And I say that not because they are who they are and they're a wonderful company, great values, aligned values, but also because so often supply chain relationships are adversarial. And that is not our relationship. We share together, we get bumps and bruises together. It is not an adversarial relationship. It is a supportive relationship, which means that we are transparent when things go right, when they go wrong. They have a tremendous stable of talent that we can call upon. So the idea of looking at industry through a different set of lens to say, how do we reverse the adversarial relationship? Cost, and how does it become a positive relationship where we're trying solutions together? So we're fortunate enough to be in a place where Carhartt's been with us since the very beginning, and I feel like we're just getting started on the impact that we're going to have together. Literally 5 years in, we're just getting started realizing, wow, this is what we can do here. The second is government. I have to say that if you look at solar, EV, the way those industries grew was by government seeding the industries, and then private investment tripled, quadrupled, right? So I believe that there should be a movement to talk with brands about committing a % a year of apparel back to the US, with the government matching the same amount in investment in innovation. That it is going to be a moonshot like that is going to change the trajectory of everything we've lost and everything we have to gain by rebuilding our capabilities here. I think it's really important.